Wednesday, my dude.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. We made it. Hump day. How are you?
I'm good.
She did. We were texting back and forth, and I was like, okay, I'm going to check out for a little bit. Gotta go. It's Wednesday, my dudes.
Yeah, and as always, we were starting to tell stories before the show and realized we had like 10 seconds to go to air.
Yeah.
And Lila's like, no, let me finish the story. I'm like, no, we got
plenty of time, Pat. We got
my anxiety.
It's the one time I can just pretend I'm super chill. But how are you today? How's it going?
I'm good. Yeah, I worked on it's my day off Wednesdays, obviously, usually, although I work half day sometimes, but I took a side job for a mutual from Twitter that reached out. And It was nice to help out somebody that I sort of know, although I didn't really know them before, but yeah.
That's nice.
How's your world?
That's very cool that you did that. It's really fun also to meet our Twitter family in person. I like it.
Yeah.
It happens more and more often, which is kind of fun, you know. I mean, it's very fun, but like it really does bring people together. It's really nice. I like that part of social media. I can definitely get behind.
Well, and I should mention that other than being mutuals, she knows I'm an electrician and mask. So, you know, as someone who cares about masking, she's already like telling her friends, and they're excited they have an electrician that masks. And, you know, although I've heard a lot of tradespeople are actually masking. They're like one of the biggest masking groups because we go in homes all the time. And unfortunately, a lot of people will call you to do work for them when they're home, and they're home because they're sick. So those two things go hand in hand. Like, hey, I've got COVID. I might as well have the guy come over here.
Oh
and
my
fix
God.
Yeah, that's happened. That has happened.
Yeah, I have masks, you know, tons of masks, obviously. And so whenever anybody comes, I right away ask them to mask and also put on the booties for their shoes because, you know, I'm a germaphobe. All right. Oh,
we were also talking about that before the show with the peeing and the because Lila loves, you know, she's trying to make me one of those sit down and pee guys, like, you know.
There's so many great videos. I feel like we need to revisit our debate at some point and each come with our own ammunition just for like a fun extra.
We should do a whole segment. We'll bring back the SNL Jane, you ignorant slut thing.
Yeah,
for the news.
I feel like it's the beginning way or an really good entry point to solving toxic masculinity is to have men sit to pee.
To demasculate us. We can't be toxic. You can be toxically demasculated or whatever that means.
Mean, I just think that could be a root cause, like starting very early. A behavior that helps enforce some aggression.
Yeah, I'm gonna call a no on this, but we'll move on. Agree to disagree, Jane. Slut.
And that should answer your question that runs, no, we do not have new argument, but I am right.
We need some new ones. But I did forget to mention before the show, Lila and I were prepping, and I'm talking, and I hear sad trombone sounds. You know, the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's Strike, and she's standing on I have this little voice sound, you know, the sound effect box, and she hit twice when I was talking.
Maybe she didn't like what you're talking about. What were you saying? Were you being rude to me? Were you being disrespectful?
I think we were talking about your pee argument.
Was that was what it was? I love it.
Yeah.
She's so smart, that Strike. Brett Boyle, thank you for being a member. And yes, please, thank you for the great reminder. Thank you. Cheers. To please make sure to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell. And as always, yeah, go ahead.
And thank you. I noticed a lot of people are more people are leaving comments on the YouTube show itself, which helps the algorithm allegedly. So thank you for that. Yes. And just to hear what you think of the show or whatever, get your opinion out there. We'll start a discussion there. Or
love it. So thank you. All the comments are awesome, and really appreciate everybody's support. I am sorry. Oh my goodness. I am a little frazzled, I guess. I'm pushing too many buttons. Okay. Thank you to all of our wonderful pup heroes and sheroes, our members. We are really, really grateful for all your support. So thank you. We just really appreciate it. Thanks. And we love hanging out here with you guys twice a week. It's all of our therapy, I think.
It's a great excuse to drink beer and vent. And Jesus, I need glasses.
Yeah, me too. What is going on?
But I was going to say what my beer is. It was some play on Dark Side of the Moon, but the print is too fine. Could anyone read that?
No, it just disappeared when it gets too close. I was a big Floydie in high school. I mean, I still love Pink Floyd so much, but that's awesome. Is it good? Do you like that beer?
It's very good. Very good.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good to hear.
I'll get back to you with the name when I put my readers on.
I know it's hard. Okay. Getting old is not for the faint of heart. All right. So there's been a lot of kind of amazing, as opposed to like the No King for a Day sort of like aimless pussy hat 2.0 marches that really aren't asking for anything. And it feels very sort of like specifically focused just on Trump or Elon Musk, as opposed to the system that creates them. Like, how about money out of politics, or, like something like a demand? And instead it's like, anyway, so I'm not really into that. But what there has been a ton of that we're all seeing is communities showing up to protect other members of their community who are being invaded by these, fatigue wearing ICE agents, I guess, but a lot of them don't have badges. They're covering their faces. Some of them are wearing like sweatshirts and fatigues. Like it could be anybody. It's the craziest thing. So there's been a bunch of stuff going on in Minneapolis that we'll talk about, but we had talked on Sunday about what happened in San Diego when they were raiding the Italian restaurant, the kitchen workers at the Italian restaurant. And we found a little bit better video that's a little longer. So we wanted to give a big cheers to the community in San Diego who came out to chase off the Gestapo ICE invading their town.
Here. And oh Jesus, I'm interrupting something political for my beer. This is important stuff. Merck side of the moon, which I don't know. Merck, is that a weed term?
Big
I
Pharma.
think it's a weed term.
Big Pharma. Okay, sure, no, sure. I don't know. I'm joking. All right. So this is San Diego.
Agents. Cheers.
Fucking shame! 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 Back up! Yeah, back up! Back up! Shame! 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 Back up! Yeah, back up!
Love this shit.
That's right.
Let's go.
Right. Back
It's
up.
Game of Thrones.
Back up. You guys are fucking Nazis. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking Nazis. God damn it. Fucking cowards. Go. Yeah, get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Fucking cowards. Cowards. Fucking coward.
White,
like an Amazon truck. Yeah.
Right.
Nazi fucking coward.
Nazi fucking coward.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Shame, shame, like bring back shame. Who are these revolting people? So I'll tell you, like, I know it could go the other way, but I've seen so many of these sorts of videos. So I am really encouraged by it. And, you know, as we have talked about so many times, that kind of courage is contagious. And I think when people, you know, and it's also like you can do that when you know your community and people are communicating. And I think, you know, all of those things are really good signs.
And I bring up that they were white people there, a lot of them, not to give us a medal for being white people getting involved, but to show that that's the privilege you have, is you're safer as a white person around police and ICE, and use that power.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm sure it looked like some people in that group were Hispanic as well, but regardless, everyone should stand up. But the people that should be the bravest around the police is us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, I agree. It was an absolute mistake. And it was part of what led us down this path. And whatever anyone believes about 9/11, it was surely used to, you know, create more state surveillance and codify it, which is repulsive. So we need to fight all of that. But yeah, cheers to people who show up like that. And we have a couple more videos like that we're going to try and sprinkle through, so that just as a reminder that we do have some power, because sometimes I think we all leave, well, every day, but also the show sometimes just feeling like, I don't know if we did our job of trying to uplift people. And it's depressing what's happening in the world. And I think we both, you know, I think we all know it's important to talk about it, but there has to be some.
We decided we will try to offer more hope. I lobbied just to drink a lot more, but
that's always good. Actually, that's like, I'm already
that would have been Lila's position as well, but better than that, we're gonna try to infuse a little bit of you know, I don't know, positive, but just
moments.
We don't have victories to report very often, but we have people fighting in the right way, and we have people you could cheer for and root for and get behind, and that are good examples. So we're going to show more of that
when it occurs,
when we can.
No pressure to find it when it's not there. But this
somebody do something. Luigi, where are you?
Oh geez, Pat, I'm gonna hear a knock on your door. All right, let's before anybody hears that for real, let's spin the wheel. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
Lila, we don't have a what the fuck this week. We have to.
Oh really? All right. Well,
doesn't matter.
Well, I'll put something in there.
Yeah. We've got the puppets though. Let's see. Here we go.
No.
I love that. Did that not have a tag on it? I thought it did.
I love those.
Sorry about that.
For who it was from or something?
No. The rap. You guys, the brain damage is real.
The puppet starts with the rap. There's no end to it.
All right.
That's what it is. But that strike every day, she's fixated with my sink in the bathroom. So every day she goes in there, and if I'm on the toilet, she's on my back for one. Right. But if I'm not, She hops into the sink and meows at me to turn the water on for her, at which point she lets it run down her cheek and drinks it filtered off of her cheek.
Wow. Okay. I like it. That's cute. I like it when they are into the water. All right, so let's get started. If everybody grab your poison, your self-medication of choice. I'm already almost done with my first glass. Can you tell? By the way, I can barely get through a sentence. We are having a little bit of a divorce here, a split. Was it yesterday that Elon Musk? Yeah, today's the 4th. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. Look at that.
Yeah, and I love to see it. I love to see this because obviously this bill is trash, and the connection between the tech bros and Trump and power needs to go away. So that's something to be positive about. But obviously,
yeah, I mean, I don't agree with any reason. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the pork that he wants cut probably is all the social programs that he's been underfunding and firing people from their jobs. So these positions, no matter how much funding our government decided, healthcare needed or Head Start needed or whatever needed, he unfunded all that himself. And now he's mad that some of this stuff still exists in the bill as part of it.
Yep. And he's also upset. Yeah, I mean, like they didn't even look. First of all, they said they were going to cut $2 trillion. They didn't even touch anything at the Pentagon. He is probably the single, like the single
beneficiary.
Beneficiary of our almost $1 trillion offensive military budget. It turns out, as was so eloquently put in, by an anonymous source, that Elon was butthurt. And in the Axios report, his main reasons that he was upset were the legislation cuts the EV tax credit, the electric vehicle credit that helps car makers like, guess who? Musk's Tesla. As of late April, his company had spent at least $240,000 lobbying on behalf of the credit and other company matters. Behind the scenes, sources say Musk also advocated for the measure in legislation, but to no avail. Number 2, he was working at the White House as what's called a special government employee, and he had discussed trying to stay in that role beyond the 130-day time limit set by statute for the unpaid advisory position. Unpaid is hilarious because he's making billions of dollars by cutting all these regulatory agencies and, getting off scot-free from all of his labor practices. But ultimately, White House officials said he couldn't keep serving in that capacity. 3, he also wanted the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to use his Starlink satellite system for national air traffic control. But the administration balked at it because of the appearance of a conflict of interest and for technological reasons. I'm kind of shocked by that. And the final straw for Musk appeared to come Saturday night when Trump abruptly announced he was withdrawing the nomination of Jared Isaacman, a Musk ally, to be NASA administrator. And I think they used as an excuse the fact that Isaacson had donated to Democratic candidates in the past.
Yeah, all of that is like, look, Trump didn't just decide we're going to cut ties with Musk or no, the optics are all just so awful for him that we can't give you the satellite business. We can't put your buddy in NASA who's going to decimate NASA. So as we give you the contracts for SpaceLink, and they've just gone too far, and they're trying to and this is what we kind of thought or would happen is that they hang all this evil on Musk in the beginning,
right?
Pass this terrible budget that does all this evil, right. And then Trump gets to sort of rebrand afterwards. He starts over with this break from Musk.
Yeah, and also, I'm seeing people in the comments also saying it. I do think that there is a bit of like kayfabe to it. It's like we're going to brawl, and now it's all going to be on Twitter. And by the way, as you said at the beginning, the pork that he really wants gone is like, get rid of any social safety programs as much as possible. I mean, they're already going to, you know, destroy Medicare, Medicaid, and you know, I think the estimation is like 57,000 extra deaths will happen because people will be losing their access to health insurance. What a great plan the ACA was. Thanks, Obama and the Heritage Foundation. But it allows, in the chaos, because they love doing this, to kind of like distract and deflect. And while everybody can be like, oh, look, you know, here's Musk with his Kill Bill tweet, you know, that becomes the focus so that nobody really has to talk about what's in that bill. And this is interesting, though. He put out another tweet that said, in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. So, you know, be careful of the monster you create, because he will use his, you know, almost $1 trillion to fight against anybody he doesn't like.
He will, but what we already know is even if he goes against Trump, that means he's with the Democrats. That means the Democrats are with him, which means it's all irrelevant because they're all going to suck up to him, and Democrats will give him his Starlink. It'll be the Democrats who close it out for him.
By the way, it was the Democrats who first started the whole partnership with Musk in the first place, and all the government subsidies under Obama. But yeah, exactly. Right on cue. Democrats put out, you know, their funny, pithy, you know, the world is falling apart. Oh, heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point about him not liking the bill. You know, it did sort of remind me, like, he put out a tweet in 22 talking about how Trump was too old to run again. He'd be 82 at the end of his term, which is too old to be chief executive of anything, let alone the United States of America. And then Trump came back with this. When Elon Musk came to the White House asking me for help on all of his many subsidized projects, whether it's electric cars that don't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere, without which subsidies he'd be worthless, and telling me how he was a big Trump fan and Republican, I could have said, drop to your knees and beg, and he would have done it. So let them fight.
Let them fight. Let that meme. We need that meme instead of the worst guy of the world. And that's look, if Democrats were on the right side of this, that's what they would put out the "let them fight" meme. It fits Democrats this so much better.
Clearly, all in the tank with Republicans. Like, I mean, I know we're going to get to all of this, but I mean, I guess we can kind of like go back and forth between the two because there's a lot going on. But to see Democrats right away come out, I mean, just a disgusting, you know, they're not cowards because this is the fight they want. I mean, they're doing exactly what they want to be doing. We all know that. But they're just so disgustingly like brazen about how corrupt they are. Anyway, here is Chuck Schumer.
I agree with Elon Musk. Within the hour, he put on X the following. I have it right here so you can all see it. He said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You did wrong," he said to them. "You know it. It will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt." It's right here. He's right.
I love that he's holding up a little paper this size with the tweets. Like,
yeah, like me with my readers.
Look less like in touch with technology.
Yeah.
While you're talking about Elon Musk, AI chief, rocket ship guy, and we agree with him. Here's the thing I printed out on my laptop.
I mean, it's so disgusting. first of all, if you cared about anything at all apart from, your own career and your donors, you, first of all, would never say, I agree with the guy pushing the great replacement theory, who is a white supremacist, who, did the Sig Heil twice, who is, wants everything to be taken over with AI. Like he's just a disgusting human being. I've never heard Chuck Schumer be like, I agree with Bernie Sanders, and what we need is Medicare for all, because yes, this is going to, force, what does it say? 13.7 million people are going to lose their health insurance because of this. Also, 51,000 Americans will die each year, in addition to the 68,000 who already die each year because they cannot have health access to actual health care, not insurance. So, and that's not even including, of course, sending everybody back to work and giving them COVID and mass debilitation. There are so many different ways that you could go with this, but to quickly hold a little press briefing and be like, I agree with Elon Musk, one of the worst people in the world, shows you exactly who Democrats are over and over.
And just, we don't have anything on it for the show, but like I tweeted about it, but Gavin Newsom in the California's budget right now, he's trying to cut Medi-Cal, and he's adding a provision that goes back 20 fucking years.
Are you talking about this, the asset test?
Yeah, the asset test. So you can't have, if you're 65 or older or disabled, you can't have more than $2,000 in assets. Now, what are those assets? They're fucking money of any sort laying around, like in your bank account. If you have a burial plots aren't $2,000. They're more than that. You can't own a burial plot if you're over 65 and get Medi-Cal. That's what he wants. That's in his fucking budget.
That's
Democrat,
the progressive
running the state, the Democratic rising star.
How long can he continue to rise?
He's not rising. He's rising.
So they keep calling him that. Like, what the, So there are so many different ways that you could approach the possibility that this might not pass the Senate, the House budget. But running out to say that you're aligning yourself with Elon Musk would not be the choice of somebody who is actually fighting for his constituents. Okay. Is there any, it was talking about national debt, all of that stuff, I don't know. We don't have a ton more to say about these morons. Although I did think it was funny that Trump didn't even know, we didn't even talk about this. Trump didn't know who his Surgeon General was, but apparently she's not even an MD, which interesting. And the big Maha report that RFK Jr. came up with apparently had relied heavily on AI. And there were several studies in there whose authors, to whom he attributed the studies, immediately showed up to say, that's not a study I ever did. That was clearly put together by some weird ChatGPT algorithm, because that's not my study. So, why in any world would you want to align yourself with anyone in this party?
Yeah, are we going to show the Maha stuff with that or not? The chat
GPT. I mean, which part of it? Because there's these people are evil. So again, stop. We need a good, strong Republican Party. No, you don't. They're plenty strong. They fucking suck. They're so strong that you all are running over there. Now we just have one huge right-wing fiasco. Last week, Joni Ernst said, well, we're all going to die, when somebody was scared about what was happening in the bill. Should we just show that and her apology and then kind of move from there? Or is that
should we show that? Show it. Yeah.
So people are not, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. See, I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Fuck you, lady. She's justifying
Death panels.
her response, which was to a question about funding causing deaths of people, to, well, we're all going to die. Maybe you should embrace Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That's the GOP response that's acceptable to people. Like, Republicans aren't going to take that. Like that.
And making fun of those were her constituents.
Yeah, they
fun.
fucking look. The Bible stops when you don't get your health care and your wages get cut. You know, that's how it works. Like, but you're asking these people to just die for the cause of because you believe in, die for the Republican Party, because after you die, you got heaven anyway. So just don't worry about this part. Just fucking die and you got heaven. So
just like the lack of empathy is just, I mean, that, you know, that is, I think, a psychologist, and now I can't remember her name, who studied Nazis from Nazi Germany, like the sort of core tenet that she saw was that they just had no empathy. They could not find it in themselves to care about other people. Here we have Senate Majority Leader John Thune talking about healthcare.
That's a rising tide lifts all the boats, and you know, the best for if people are looking for healthcare, the best healthcare is a job. You know, and a lot of times healthcare comes with a job, and so creating those better paying jobs that come with benefits is ultimately the goal here.
That's like Gavin Newsom. Get a job. You want Medi-Cal? Get a job.
Get a job. And also we support the gig work that doesn't provide jobs. And we're pushing that first. Like, so, hey, get a 30-hour-a-week job that doesn't provide any of that shit, because that's how you're going to lift yourself up from your bootstraps. But you can't lift yourself up from your bootstraps and have health care. So what's the fix? It's not electing more Democrats. We know
I'll tell you what it could be.
Let's go.
Want to do a shot of raw milk to toast this with me? All right. One of the things I know you're thinking about a lot is this huge amount of glyphosate. So we've got glyphosate-free honey and raw milk, and let's go.
You guys order some raw milk shooters?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Secretary Kennedy, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for your work. It's an honor to spend time with you.
You too.
Appreciate you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Health and Human Services with that's a Dr. Paul Saladino. I don't know what he's had just like shooting down salmonella, E. coli, listeria, could be bird flu. Who the hell knows? Raw milk.
We have known raw milk has been bad forever. It's been known. It's not like we just came out this week since Republicans got elected and said, hey, raw milk is bad.
Louis
no,
Pasteur,
we know
baby.
We started pasteurizing milk fucking 70 years ago. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there, but for a reason,
way longer than that. In the 18, Louis Pasteur was from the 1800s.
Hey, don't history lesson me. 70 years ago was fine. But it's because you're gonna get shit in your milk. The shit and the cow things, udders, they're all like right there. Right. So this is known. And here's the guy who's cutting all of our safety nets, who's removing all funding for research. And you know, the stated goals of MAHA are like the ones that the left will embrace are like, you know, getting chemicals out of our food and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, this motherfucker cites the rationale to get these things out of our food. he cites studies that he just unfunded all of them.
All the agencies that were
across the board,
yep.
You know, all the groups that were studying all these things that he thinks are a reason we should, you know, he's right because the research is there, but he just said we're not going to. The government is unfunding these things. So, like, if you're behind him because you believe in that stuff and you don't care about the COVID stuff, or like you still see the benefit to this guy because, you know, he's going to he's going to help us in these areas with plastics in food and stuff like that and BFAs.
Nope.
He's unfunding all the groups that fucking do this shit.
And they want to privatize all of it. We'll use AI to see if you have microplastics in your brain. Also, like long-term chronic disease defunded. I mean, there's nothing there.
Yeah, long-term chronic disease defunded in the same week that we find out that the number one cause for kids of long-term chronic disease is now COVID.
Yep.
COVID is now the number one thing in the whole fucking country in the US for kids who have chronic disease.
For chronic disease, yep. Because it like affects their lungs so disastrously while they are still growing that the inflammation, like there's a bigger response to having COVID, even for kids who had very mild symptoms. Yeah, no, it's a disgusting mess, which again, if we had a party of opposition, that would be fantastic. Do you want to spin before we move on to that party of opposition? Should we do it?
That's our new motto. Joy before
a little bit of joy.
I don't know. A lot more joy. More joy.
More joy. A little more joy.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Hey, bad baby.
Yeah, this one kind of relates to yeah, this is sort of a techie one. So let's do it. This is AI.
Welcome back to the joy of AI painting. Today we won't need our paints or our brushes. We'll just need some inspired prompts for our AI generative software. What about a painting of a fresh water creek on a prairie with a few elm trees and a giant sycamore, the tire swing hanging from the branch? Okay, let's generate it. See what we got. Oh, would you look at that? It almost lifts the spirit, but not quite. You know, looking at fresh water like this reminds me that AI will use over 6 billion cubic meters of water between now and 2027 just to cool down the data centers, while the average human being only drinks 60 cubic meters of water in his life. Yes, it's a scarce resource, but a small price to pay for a technology that would show us what Ratatouille would look like if it was directed by Stanley Kubrick. Not to mention displace the entire global workforce. Okay, well, let's get another prompt going. What about a painting of a hollow void with a glimmering exterior? A cultural flagpost for the end of civility and compassion. Would you look at that? That's what we call a tragic little accident. But that's all right. You just have to keep readjusting your prompts until you find something that is not a giant eyesore. Well, that's it for today. Join us next week when we generate an image of a hot dog as a spaceship.
You know, it's interesting. I am seeing quite a few exposés now on Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin. There was one in New York Magazine, another in the New York Times. There's, I think, and I'm sort of surprised by it, but there are some people, even in legacy media, who are starting to realize that AI is coming for their white collar jobs as well. Like, there's been a bit of a shift because this is happening right like this week. And I'm sure part of it is because in this bill, there's that 10-year ban on any regulatory action about AI at the state level. But it's interesting to me that these people are finally being exposed in the sort of more mainstream media, you know, whatever.
Yeah. And it's so obvious to the public. And that's when the mainstream media is pushing back. I don't know. I think it's one of those where I don't think they can pass this bill with that in there at this point. You know, I think it's gone too far. Like, I don't think they would be saying, they would be reporting on it if it wasn't already determined behind the scenes that this has gone too far.
Right.
You know, so there's going to be some safety net there, which is what this tells us. Like, it won't be 10 years. It'll be like 2. Like, oh, that, and Democrats will be like, we got 2 years of protection. Then we got to vote for some more Democrats, or else they'll have it all.
Yeah,
they'll have it all. Of the good. More Democrats after 2 years.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So if we go to 2 degrees Celsius or 3, global warming. Yeah. All right. So Democrats are still pretending that they're trying to figure out why they lost, even though it's very clear what they are. You know, there was going to be this study connecting with young men panel that was canceled, with just the weirdest, like, motley crew of people to connect with young men. Olivia Juliana, Richard Hanania, and Micah somebody, I can't even remember, but that was canceled, thank goodness. And then they have now released some of the findings, and shocking shock of shocks, what they realized is that actually people are panicked about their economic situation. They're not just racist fascists. The men that they talked to described how the COVID pandemic left them isolated and socially disconnected. They also said they now feel overwhelmed by economic anxiety, making traditional milestones like buying a home or saving for kids' college feel impossible. The degree to which those economic concerns are also impacting how they think about themselves and quote unquote success of being a man and living up to their own expectations or the expectations of their family or society. There's another layer of economic anxiety that I don't think I fully saw until now. So, how do you think the Democrats would like to manage this? Right away, let's just welcome everybody to the Welcome Fest today. Welcome Fest. Welcome. Some wonderful rising stars of the Democratic Party, like Alyssa Slotkin, Richie Torres. It's funded Adam Jentelson, who is the chief of staff for Fetterman. I mean, this is like Marshall Kosloff, who is like a far right guy, and now he's a big center Dem because center Dems are Republicans, obviously. Derek Thompson, surprise, right? Matt Iglesias. So all like just the worst people in the world. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I don't not hate anyone on that list that I'm aware of by name.
Yeah, no, they all fucking suck. They're the worst people in the world. What is the title? Responsibility to win. So that's already setting it up as like this is going to be a numbers thing. It's not going to be popular. You're not going to like it. This is going to be this is the unpopular view you need to hear. You people need to hear. Kamala went too far left. Between the border bill and the tax credit of $25,000 for a new home and genocide, too far left, baby. Too far left. Go right. Here's from Revolving Door. Oh my God, that's so small. But anyway, of course, Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn guy who said that, he was like one of the surrogates for Kamala, was like right away, we're going to fire Lena Khan, who was one of the only good things to come out of the Biden administration. She's, the anti-monopoly lawyer. But then, just like, again, gross people. It's all that third way, Clinton, New Democrat. And just as a reminder, the New Democratic, or what was it? The Democratic Leadership Council, New Democrats. Anyway, the thing that like helped push Clinton up when he was a governor in Arkansas was funded by the Koch brothers, among others. So anyway, that's who they are. And here is Richie Torres talking with, what's his name? Michael Barbaro, Michael
Barrow.
Josh Barrow. Sorry, Josh Barrow.
Barrow.
Josh Barrow from
Abundance.
A lot of Abundance fans here today. When I look at policies in New York that stand in the way of abundance, very often if you look under the hood, you eventually find a labor union at the end that is the driver of that. I mean, to take some examples.
Sorry, that is so low. Nobody's ever going to be able to hear it. I'm so sorry. I don't
We
know
can
why
summarize it.
Yeah, it's anti-union.
In summary, that whole 2.5 minute clip is him blaming unions because they're stopping construction in New York and other things. Like they're blaming the union. Like if you got the unions out of the way,
holdup. Yeah.
They're the holdup. So that they're what's stopping abundance. So obviously abundance equals deregulation, but they're trying not to say that. But that's the whole thing. They want to take the regulation away, and unions force upon contracts certain stipulations that protect workers, and they don't want that. And Torres comes out right away in response to this and says, yeah, well, don't blame the people for what they know. You know, I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
Blame the leadership because they're not messaging this stuff right, you know.
You know, it reminds me of on Sunday when we showed that clip of Pete Buttigieg on the Bulwark. And he was saying that, you know, one of the biggest mistakes of the Biden administration was allowing the lockdowns of schools. And he would have not done that. And especially, I mean, it's just amazing with all the science and knowledge that we have now about how COVID is infecting and reinfecting and disabling our children to say that. But as I think it was Daniel said, that is his sign to his donors that he'll come out against teachers unions who have historically a very strong union, you know, and here it is again, you know, make sure we do not want any regulations. We are anti-labor, build. And I think, what was it? David Sirota was pointing out that, you know, in their book, In Abundance, this is from the book, every one of these is a worthy goal, but so too is building a lot of affordable housing quickly and cheaply. Los Angeles is failing and failing badly at doing that. Given that failure, does it make sense to be asking for special air filtration systems for development near freeways?
I mean, just read that. That is just fucking wild. So,
and
given
sorry,
that
but like
you need housing, should we care about the air quality that you're breathing?
Yeah. And so the next part just is that the alternative is you're going to be in a tent beneath the freeway. Those are your options, fam. You either have to have, you know, lead in your water and asbestos in your lungs, or you'll live under a freeway. Abundance.
Or here's a crazy thing that they don't ever seem to think about. What if you tax the rich 1% more? Like literally, they're like Newsom's budget in California, and you know all this stuff. It goes hand in hand. Every issue the Democrats have, you can see in Newsom's budget. And Newsom's budget, instead of cutting all these programs because we have a deficit in California, which we have a deficit, right? We can run a deficit also in California because we are the 4th biggest economy in the fucking world.
Yep.
Right. So we can run a deficit regardless. But let's say we don't want to run a deficit. You can just raise the taxes on the wealthy in this state. That's all you have to do. You don't have to look for ways to kick people off Medi-Cal because they have fucking a cemetery plot.
I mean, yeah. And again, you know, here in California, 4th largest economy in the world with a Democratic supermajority. I think we talked about this already, but the California homeless student population rose almost 10% this year, 20,000 more kids. So like, what are we doing? We have housing. A lot of it sits empty because people would rather they'd rather throw out the food than give it away. They would rather have their homes be empty than reduce the rent. And all of that needs to be taken on. And the Democrats are not going to be the ones to do it for sure.
No, I drive around Sacramento every day and see, I'm not even kidding, hundreds in one day driving around Sacramento to 3 jobs. If I go to 3 jobs, I've seen hundreds of homeless people. And I've seen fucking 100 empty buildings that have been empty the entire time I've been doing this job that are just vacant. There's nothing, you know, and then I get to see, because I know the entire city now, I get to see where the encampments are. And then all of a sudden I'll go one day where there were 200 homeless people and they're gone. because that's what our government dollars do. That's what funding the police does.
Right.
They break up these encampments. They kick these people out of their homes. They sweep them with no warning, and they have nowhere to go, which makes their whole life incredibly difficult because all their documents that prove who they are in many cases are in these places. Yep. And it's just fucked. You know, the money we spend to regulate that stuff, when you could just open up, if we have abundance of real estate, let's open up some of these places and say, hey, let's let fucking homeless people live there because some rich fucker in another state has used this as a tax write-off for 5 fucking years.
Yep. Well, and you know, so Axios just did this poll with focus groups, and they asked people about abundance, and they even allowed the abundance crafters, you know, the Derek Thompson and Ezra Klein types, to come up to phrase the questions the way they wanted it phrased. And overwhelmingly, the people's response was, it is, if the regulations that are there that are hurting the ability to create more housing are put in place by big businesses and donors to politicians to help guard their mass wealth. They were very clear about it. Which, you know, again, like, you know, we all know this because every time there's ever a poll about any left-wing policy, any, you know, economic, populist, universal policy, it's overwhelmingly popular across the whole spectrum. So nobody's falling for this, but they are really, you know, they've got all their marketing people out there. They are going to try to shove it down everybody's throat.
They are, because there's, how do you counteract popular policies? You need some narrative. Like, they need some sort of narrative to why, you know, just giving you healthcare, which is $650 million cheaper in California, billion dollars cheaper in California, and 650 million cheaper, excuse me, for California. But regardless, cheaper for better outcomes. And when you create homeless people, like through Medi-Cal, with what Newsom wants to do, that is a massive expense that the government ends up eating. It's a long-term problem. It's like the short-term solution of like a quick budget this year, Newsom gets to go home and we're done.
Right.
Is kicking these people off Medi-Cal, which creates homeless people, which creates homeless elders and disabled people, which other programs pick up, and there's money spent on them. It costs us so much more than to just do the right thing, which would save money with healthcare.
Yep. It would house people. Children would have security in their homes. Their parents wouldn't have to work 3 jobs. They wouldn't be living under a bridge. Like, there's so many things we could be doing. It would take away a little bit of the profit margin of the richest ghouls in the world. And nobody on either side who's in a leadership position is willing to say that. So that's where we are. They won't do anything. They're going to do this whole abundance bullshit. We have to deregulate and poison our kids even more. Anytime you invest in any kind of infrastructure, whether it's health or housing, food, education, bridges, roads, your air quality, your water, that's long-term investment that comes back to you. Even if it's all bottom line, even if you are just such a disgusting, empty vessel.
Yeah, exactly.
It still is a better option.
And it's a better option in the poor communities more, because the costs of a poor community that doesn't have health care, when you're toxically poisoning them, to the long-term cost of giving all these people cancer who live near Elon Musk's fucking cyber fucking dumpster truck facility, who is illegally poisoning an entire community. It should be brought up before Congress tomorrow.
Well, who's going to do that?
Cost of all that,
opposition who just said we agree with Elon Musk?
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly, but yeah, it's disgusting. It's really disgusting. I mean, we have more sort of like gross things with the Democrats, but I mean, do we even care? Like, honestly, I just don't care that much to hear any of them talk. We can just rifle through. I mean, we can if you want, but just so we all know where we are. Is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks for Zoran, the New York mayor election? I think there's a debate on right now. What I think a lot of people might not know is that Cuomo already has his name on a third party ballot. So even if he doesn't beat Zoran,
remember all the spoiler law stuff about Bernie running independent and like it's anti-democratic to threaten to run independent if you lose.
He's gonna because it's a ranked choice voting. It's like you keep doing it with all the different candidates, and right now I think there's maybe an 8-point difference, but Zoran's really moving forward. Like people are excited about him, and how in the hell does Kirsten Gillibrand come out, the Miss Me Too, who got Al Franken out of office, right? And now this guy who's like
she's
a rapist. He's a fucking disgusting, corrupt, awful person who sent 10,000 elderly people to their death at the beginning of COVID. But she came out for him. And by the way, where's AOC? Is she from New York? Because that would be probably a good endorsement to make. Democratic.
Well, from what I understand, it's she wants to make him a stronger candidate in the long run by toughening him up and building character by not getting her endorsement, which would be like such a gravy train. If she endorsed him, it would just put him over the top, and he needs to get tough on his own and
build character. Dude.
She is such a piece of fucking shit. AOC Pelosi is the best thing I've ever heard from the Green Party.
Yeah. That
phrase, who patented that in the Green Party?
Butch Ware, right?
Butch Ware.
AOC Pelosi. Yeah. He is truly, I don't understand how it should just be an automatic that she comes out for Zoran. It's really gross and so revealing. But she's revealed herself before. She built our character with the force the vote, not supporting that, and Medicare for all by voting for the Iron Dome, by saying that Kamala was working tirelessly for a ceasefire. She's building all of our characters every day. Ruckus on, lady, ruckus.
And I just want a special shout out to people on the left ignoring COVID, to fuck you also on this one. Because look, Cuomo in New York got away with all this stuff, but his message was national. He was put on TV every day to be the Democratic response to Trump about COVID.
Yep.
And you fuckers on the left ate up everything he said is what you're pushing now. Those are the same lies, just because they're not economic lies or, social issue lies. You think you can ignore COVID because COVID affects you. But if you were covering this responsibly and pointing out how bad a guy he is, you can't ignore what he did to COVID. But you can, of course, if you're on the left and you ignore COVID, because you have to. Because if you talk about COVID, your little Patreon dollars are going to dry up. Yep. You fucking cowards.
It's amazing to me that this keeps coming out. And each time it's like, it's new. But they actually talked about, and sorry, AOC Pelosi was Butch Ware. AOCIA was Zy Squirrel.
Oh, Zy Squirrel, front of the show. Well, we haven't had him.
I would love, and I think it's actually a she. I would love it. That's what I've heard. Okay, so just to quickly catch everybody up on a couple more things, and then we can move on. Jake Tapper's book, not doing great. Ratings fall to 387,000 on Thursday. I guess nobody needs to hear him try to refurbish his image for, towing the line for the Democratic Party and pretending that it was crazy to see what was in front of your eyes. But that's not stopping Cory Booker. Remember that 25-hour filibuster against nothing? Against nothing. Wasn't fighting for anything. Just stood there talking. He's gonna write a book.
Stand. I love that. Just
nothing.
He should name it Just Fucking Stand There.
Yeah, for nothing.
Just fucking stand there. I'm gonna stand there.
Stand there for Big Pharma. Stand there for genocide.
Standing doesn't accomplish fucking
charter
shit,
schools,
dude. Standing does not do a goddamn thing. His book is going to really fucking tank.
Yeah, that's going to be an embarrassment. And not to be outdone, Karine Jean-Pierre is going to be writing a book about leaving the Democratic Party. She wants everybody to know. And, when I first read this, I was like, wow, maybe she's just really embarrassed by what a total asshole she was and her own blind loyalty and making excuses for a genocide. But it turns out that actually the thing that she is most upset about is that people came out and she said it was a firing squad against Biden. Like, here's this person who had a more successful one-term presidency than anybody in her lifetime, and everybody came out and attacked him, and that was really an eye-opening moment for her.
Okay, her book, if her book does well, it was gaslit and like some sort of Israeli funded Mossad effort to make her book successful, because nobody wants to buy that. Like,
yeah,
for Jake Tapper to have his book out there, who he's advertised on CNN every fucking night when he was on the air.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, fuck you, dude. You're the guy who was most responsible for telling us this shit, and you didn't tell us this shit, and instead you wrote a book. Fuck off. And same with her. Fuck off. You're the, everyone knows that her job was PR of the White House, but don't go from PR of the White House to here's PR from the White House in your book. Nobody wants to buy that book. Nobody bought Biden's shit to start with. It was just Democrats supporting it because they either don't know better or whatever, but you're not changing minds with your fucking book.
And I mean, again, like, the thing that's upsetting to her is that people were mean to Biden. So is she like, she's going to leave?
Nobody cares.
What? A Republican? I mean, yeah, these people have no ideology. They have no principles. They have no integrity. They're just,
Should we
really
audible?
repulsive. Yes, let's do it.
Find a positive, the new thing we were talking about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Make it happen. Do it. Do it.
All right. Wait, I got to find your Audible.
I'll push it. I'll push it.
Okay,
You find
okay.
the video to
All right,
play
let's do
after it.
Good.
New segment. When we are too upset, we will find some joy or something happy going on or whatever. Woosah.
All right. So I felt a little weird about this, but decided we should show it anyway, just as a moment. This is the MMA fight between McCrory and Faraj from the other day.
McCrory addressing his fans at K-side. Big elbows from McCrory. And it's over.
Big hand to the third round.
I'm not an MMA fan or a whatever, pugilist. But that's an IDF soldier who is a child killer. And the fact that Ez McCrory has him pinned down, he's like, kid killer, free Palestine in his face. That feels better than the punches. I love it.
I fucking love that. Inject that shit into my veins, which is why that's the segment. And yeah, people want to rewind it and watch it again because And it's not obviously it's not because it was an Israeli guy. This guy actually was an IDF soldier.
IDF
So
soldier.
It's like,
yeah.
it's, you know, it's next level.
And just think, like, they're trying, FIFA, a lot of soccer, football people have been angling to try to ban Israel from being able to compete, and they won't allow it. The second that Russia invaded Ukraine, they were banned from everything. And the fact that 20 months into a genocide, there are IDF soldiers who are still participating in soccer matches, who are being, wooed to come to U.S. institutions. So I think because institutionally we feel so powerless, even though the people know the leaders know exactly what their people want, I like that moment. That's a good
and
moment.
it's obviously symbolic, but it's a win. We don't get wins on the Palestine side, and these people are suffering. And I think we'd all like to be in there punching an IDF soldier.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. All right. Let's are we gonna still spin, or are we gonna move on to the next thing?
Oh, yeah, we should spin. We only have so much time, so we should spin.
All right.
Just because our joy is our premise here.
Bring the joy.
These days.
Bring the joy.
Yeah, baby.
But do not come.
I'm still gonna refill, but
all right, puppets. This is a pee race for me, between me and my bladder. A minute 15. Can I do it?
You go.
Ready to go?
Oh my God.
Bruh, slow down. Slow down.
Come on. Mr. Banana is waiting.
Let's go.
Oh my God! Come here.
Does it meet your standard of surfing, chick?
Hey!
Come on down.
Yeah. Oh.
Dogs don't always land on their feet. Like with cats, you can kind of trust it. That could break a dog's back. Some of those I'm like, but that makes me laugh. The stairs. Oh, my favorite point, when Pat's mic is off. You're muted.
Oh shit. I loved the part where I saw the last 5 seconds of it.
You made it. You made it just in time.
I even had time to wash my hands. I mean, we're good.
Look at that. Anyway. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So let's get into it. We all had to watch this man for a year and a half almost just lie and cover for a genocide. And now Matt Miller, and by the way, I think more people resigned under Biden, like 26 or 27 State Department people resigned because they fought against the administration. They were not listened to, and they could not bear to be part of an administration that was arming and funding a genocide. But not this guy. And now here he is on Sky News. This is just a small clip from his interview.
Do you think what's going on in Gaza now is a genocide?
I don't think it's a genocide, but I think I think it is without a doubt true that Israel has committed war crimes.
You wouldn't have said that at the podium.
Yeah, look, because when you're at the podium, you're not expressing your personal opinion. You're expressing the conclusions of the United States government. The United States government had not concluded that they've committed war crimes, still have not concluded that.
But your personal view is they have.
And
they were while you were there.
But let me qualify that. There are two ways to think about the commission of war crimes. One is if the state has pursued a policy to deliberately committing war crimes or is acting reckless in a way that aids and abets war crimes. If the state is committing war crimes, and that I think is an open question. I think what is almost certainly not an open question is that there have been individual incidents that have been war crimes where Israeli soldiers, members of the Israeli military, have committed war crimes. And we do know that Israel has opened investigations, but look, we are many months into those investigations and we're not seeing Israeli soldiers held accountable. So ultimately, in almost every major conflict, including conflicts prosecuted by democracies, you will see individual members of the militaries commit war crimes. And the way you judge a democracy is whether they hold those people accountable.
But Israel hasn't.
That's my point,
right.
Is we have not yet seen them hold sufficient numbers of the military accountable. And I think it's an open question whether they're going to.
It's not at all an open question. They haven't ever at all. And just as a reminder to Mr. Miller, superior orders, also known as just following orders or the Nuremberg defense, is a plea in a court of law that a person, whether civilian, military, or police, should not be considered guilty of committing crimes ordered by a superior officer or official. However, the plea of the superior orders has been used both before and after the Nuremberg trials, which found that you cannot actually use that as a defense to escape punishment for being complicit in a genocide. It might lessen the degree of your punishment, but you may not use that to hide behind. So he might try to wash his reputation all he wants, but if we had true justice, he would be sent to The Hague along with, the whole Biden administration, the whole Trump administration, and obviously Israel.
But he gives the game away there. He knew entirely the whole time he was saying those things that was the position of the state, but not his position. And now he's trying to walk some sort of middle ground to protect his own legacy. But it's not an open question about any of this stuff. He knows himself when all the leadership is pushing publicly on record, on video, locally in Israel, that they want to commit this genocide and they're not war crimes, and they're not war crimes by individuals. It's a strategic genocide. And, we have so many examples of him from how he looked at the Russia conflict versus how he looked at this conflict. And it's just hypocritical, and he's a villain. He should rot in hell. I hope he dies soon.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
He's disgusting. Let's just give a taste in case you forgot how disgusting he was. We will not watch any of these fully because it's too upsetting, but just as a reminder.
As was pointed out earlier this morning, this resolution did contain a call for release of hostages. What was defective about it?
What the defective is that they were not linked. We believe it's important that you get a ceasefire. You get a ceasefire that secures the release of hostages. And we proposed a number of different formulations that would link the two, and that would call for a ceasefire that includes the release of hostages. And I don't understand. Let me just say, I don't understand what could be objectionable about that language.
Well, right. No, but I guess the point is that other people don't understand what could be objectionable about the language that you just vetoed.
What is objectionable to us is that it calls for Israel
an immediate ceasefire and the immediate release.
It calls for an immediate.
Okay, so there's Matt Lee calling him out on being a liar, because once again, it's honestly, I actually gasped because once again today we vetoed. The U.S. was the only nation to veto a ceasefire. This is the fifth one now that we have vetoed. So that was Matt Lee saying, no, it's right there explicitly saying the ceasefire comes with the release of all hostages. And as we all know, on the 10th of October, 2023, Hamas said they would release all the hostages. So he knows everything we know, he knows times 100. He's seen all of it.
All of it. And like when he brings up that it's an open question because they haven't investigated themselves yet.
Yeah.
Like you're the one who pushed off all the criticism by saying, well, they're going to investigate themselves.
Yep.
That was your role, you piece of fucking shit.
Yep. Here's another one.
They've failed to.
Sorry, go.
Well, no, I was just going to say on the ceasefire agreement today, it was rejected by the U.S. at the UN. Was it the UN Council? Was that where they were doing this? I don't know. Yeah. I think it was UN. Because the deal did not include eradicating Hamas from leadership. You know, so that's like, oh, you have to get rid of every person who was in government because the government prior to this was largely Hamas. So, but you can't make a deal with, you're negotiating with Hamas. Like for one,
they are the leaders. That's how you you negotiate with your enemies. Otherwise, it's not a negotiation. You don't need a ceasefire or a truce with people you're friendly with, right? So, like, of course, you have to negotiate with the people who are in charge there. But also, just remember that the latest ceasefire deal, where Hamas said we will leave our government,
we broke it.
Well, no, Israel took that language out of their response. They want Hamas in power because then they get to say, see, this is why we have really bad neighbors. We cannot come to peace with these people.
Yes. I thought you were going to bring up the deal to release the last, well, not the last, the last Israeli hostage that was released. The deal they made with Hamas, they have not followed through with. So they already broke the last deal.
Yeah.
America broke the last deal that they brokered to get an American hostage released. We're just like, yeah, fuck that. We got it. We got him. Ha ha.
Yeah, because Witkoff promised that right away they would put pressure and open up all the corridors for humanitarian aid to come in. And instead, there's like 5 or 6 trucks. They're run by U.S. mercenaries and ex-ISIS militants that Israel pays to shoot the people they've been starving for 3 months and genociding for 20 months as they are desperately coming to get their dried pasta.
And we've reached the point in the media of this war, this genocide, where 24 fucking people trying to get food at these new aid things. They took away the UNRWA aid. They took away the UN aid. The U.S. and Israel created their own genocidal aid that doesn't actually drop at 100 spots like these other ones used to. They drop it like 4 or 5. And then when it gets anywhere near, people moving around, they shoot them. And so the U.S. press is not reporting on over 24 fucking assassinated people trying to eat in the last week.
So Sunday was the first day they opened it up. Every single day, this ISIS guy, I can't remember his name now, or IDF soldiers have shot at these starving people running towards the food. And there was the video, I don't think we showed it the other day, but you hear an American voice. So they keep them caged like in concentration camp holding cells, basically. And then they open it and then people just start running because there's not enough food and they're desperate. And they go running and you hear this American voice like, here they come. It's disgusting because they think of them as not human. And it's like a joke. They have made people so desperate and they've dehumanized them to such a level. And then they say, oh, we're under attack. Under attack. No, humanitarian aid doesn't normally come armed like that. Like you don't hear about the UNRWA people shooting the Palestinians that they are serving.
And you don't, these people traveled, a lot of them 50 miles, like we're talking people traveling massive distances to get to these aid stops because instead of the system we had before, the UN had of, and UNRWA had of knowing locations and meeting people where they are, the new US and Israeli system is well, we'll just make them come to our food. And so these people travel all this distance starving, and the whole family can't travel because the whole family's fucking starving to death. So the women and children or whoever stay home, and this guy goes to get there and get a couple cans of fucking soup or something and gets shot, you know, but he knows if he doesn't come home with some food, his family's going to die. We're at that point.
Yep.
And then these people are shooting, and they're not shooting. We know this is the plan. They want all of this.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to show the beginning of one or two more because it's just so gross. And then we will move away from
with Miller. Yeah.
Man.
They've failed to implement all of the things that we recommend in that letter. Now, that said, we are not at the end of the 30-day period, and we are in conversation.
Not ready to give them
it's not the end. It's not the end of the semester. You don't hand out grades in the middle.
I suspect that the levity is a little bit inappropriate.
No,
but look, you guys.
I love that. Fuck you. And then just as a reminder, friend of show Sam Husseini, who was dragged out at his very last, I think it was Blinken's last press conference or state conference for press. Hadn't been called on, I think, for like 3 or 4 months by that point, because at another time he had, I think it was in this one where he yells at him for smirking.
Are you aware of the Lancet group report? It's a medical magazine, British medical magazine, that estimated the deaths as a result of the war in Gaza to be 186,000.
I've seen the report, and I will just say whatever the number of civilians that have actually died as a result of this conflict, we know that it's far too many.
Are you concerned that the figures could be far more staggering than what we've seen published by, let's say, the Ministry of Health in Gaza?
The death toll could very well be more. We know there are potentially people who are under rubble who have not been counted. But it goes to the point I was making. Whatever the number is, the reported number already is far too high. Reported number already is unacceptable, the number of civilian deaths. So, of course, something higher than that would just be further tragedy. But we long ago passed the stage where this has been a horrific human tragedy for some time.
You're smirking as you say that.
Go ahead with it.
You are smirking as you say that. Are you aware?
I'm not even going to entertain that.
I'll let you finish.
I'm not even going to entertain that. Saeed, go ahead with it.
Yeah, you're smirking.
It's ridiculous.
I wanted to ask you about.
Okay, so after that, Sam Husseini, that was July 2024. Sam Husseini was not called on again. Blinken is giving his last press conference or whatever, State Department conference. And this, you see in the background, Matt Miller bringing in the people who are going to haul Sam Husseini away and actually give him a concussion.
From Gaza City said simply, we are being reborn. It's also a moment of historic possibility.
You can leave, sir.
Again, I'm happy to address questions.
No, I want him to answer my questions.
I look forward to answering questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll let him speak. We'll hear from him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of speakers.
Thank you.
I look forward to answering questions. Thank you.
Sir, would you like to be escorted out? Go away. You don't have the responsibility to tell me where to go. You want to be escorted out or not?
Thank you. I look forward to answering questions in a minute.
I'm not a potted plant.
Everyone will have an opportunity to ask questions in just a minute. Thank you.
And then they drag him out. And that was, our free press. And, I just, obviously, I know I loathe Trump, and everything that's happening is even worse on some level. Obviously, like all these ICE agents coming in, the students being deported, and people being thrown into dungeons in El Salvador. It is grotesque, but it doesn't happen without something like this, where a credentialed journalist is never called on because he said, stop smirking, as 150,000 people at that point are thought to be lying under the rubble, and then is yanked out with such force that he's given a concussion under a Democrat.
We set it all up. The Democrats set it all up. You know, I'm not going to pretend that Trump isn't villainous and evil and awful, but all this, you know, we haven't seen as much as they changed their own press corps and they flooded it with, you know, right-wing idiots and conspiracy theorists and whatever. Trump has said some bad things to some journalists, like, don't ask that question again. That's stupid, you know, whatever. Don't do that.
Yep.
He hasn't. We don't have an example of them dragging someone out of the press corps yet. We have that under Democrats.
Yeah. I mean, I probably yes, we do. And I mean, obviously they're doing other things that are, you know, just as
no, I'm not
bad.
minimizing
I know.
any of his thing. I'm just saying it's just factual that we have an example of Biden doing that.
Yeah. And from this guy, Matt Miller, who now is trying somehow to like be like, well, I was just following orders. Yes, there have been war crimes. I don't think it's a genocide, really, because every genocide scholar calls it a genocide, including Jewish Israeli genocide scholars. So nobody gives a fuck what you think. All we know is what you did and what you supported. And he absolutely should go to The Hague for that. But of course he won't.
And I just want to bring it back to his open question about it. If it's an open question, if they're going to investigate themselves, no, you are this close to power, and you're going to pretend that like they might still investigate themselves. Like that's a fucking sellout. That's bullshit. It's not an open question. They're not going to investigate themselves. Maybe they'll find somebody to hang this whole thing on over here. We found one guy over there. We found another guy over there. But that's all a distraction from leadership authorizing this genocide that you also fucking covered up daily with your lies that you know are lies because they didn't match your personal opinion.
Yep. And like from October 8th or 9th, you had Yoav Gallant saying collective punishment. They're all Hamas. We're shutting off water, electricity. Everybody is Hamas. They're all terrorists. So they knew right away that was the plan. Of course they did. He is a lying liar who should never know a moment of peace. The fact that any of these people can show his face in public, you know, we need more of that shame energy from down in San Diego. Like for all of these people, they should never have a moment of peace, ever. All right.
Wow, let's go. You're going right for the we need some positive. We did some good shit. Inject that shit right in my veins.
All right. This happened. So some of these are small, but it's people just like challenging the power. So this is in Minneapolis. They are right now having these, Gestapo flood their city. They're saying it's drug busts, but again, they don't have badges. They have crazy weapons attached to their unmarked vehicles. So the community is coming out.
How you feel? Man, these motherfuckers, that's how I feel. They came back, they did this shit 5 years ago up in this neighborhood. Now they're back. Look what you're doing to the people. Look what you're doing to the people.
We weren't here for an hour or 2 hours.
It doesn't matter.
You can't assault. and everyone else can provide their own support. MPD does not align with HSI. MPD should not be president.
This is not what you promised.
They don't answer to me.
You know what? They
don't answer to me. I'm just trying to get them.
You are not.
Stop this.
This Wells You're not listening. I just want to.
I know that wasn't happy, but it was strong. And I just feel like we need some of that. But I do have a happy thing if you guys want one quick happy thing. Can I just do an audible?
Roll it. Yeah.
All right. This is the audible.
Why worry about yesterday's fuck-ups when you have tomorrow's fuck-ups to look forward to?
Can you say mama? Hi. Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Hello. Can you say mama? Mama. Hi. Hello. Can you say mama?
Oh.
Say mama? Mama. Dada. Dada. Let's sing it.
Love.
That's cute. That was really cute. I don't even like kids, so.
She's getting so lambasted by Zionists just for saying, for sticking up for saying that Palestinian children shouldn't be slaughtered.
It's crazy, but God bless her, because we have so many examples of people just having no principles, and she has a platform and she's willing to sacrifice it because this is important. And it's ridiculous. It's like the easiest thing morally to decide which side you should be on. It's just, do you want money or not? And she's saying, I don't care about the money. This is important. This is kids. This is so fucking stupid. Fuck you.
Yeah. And I love that she's like, shame on all of you. Shame on all of you leaders who are allowing this to happen. Like, that's more than pretty much any Democrat in Congress. I mean, Bernie won't call it a genocide, although he does keep trying to, stop weapons sales, but he does just say it's, the evil right-wing government of what's his face, Netanyahu, as if it's not just the Zionist project. But
okay, but has he called war crimes? Like, is Matthew Miller to the left of Bernie fucking Sanders?
No, I think he said war crimes. He just hasn't called it a genocide, and he has tried to stop the weapons.
So he's here with fucking Matthew Miller.
He's like a liberal Zionist. Like, he still believes that Israel.
Yeah, Netanyahu's bad. We should get rid of Netanyahu, but Israel's a good project.
Yeah. All right. So there's been a really interesting shift. We started talking about it last week or on Sunday. And again, I don't really understand why it's only happening because of starvation and not the 20 months of bombing to smithereens every, school and hospital and tent and library, and targeting civilians and journalists and doctors and children who, dozens of doctors have said were targeted, like sniper shots to their heads. That, for whatever reason, wasn't enough for the few journalists who have started to change a little bit. But one of the journalists who was one of the biggest "do you condemn" guys, do you condemn Hamas, is Piers Morgan. He just had on his show, sorry, we have so many different things here and I'm not finding, where is my, there. Okay. He just had on the UK lawyer for Israel, I guess for their affairs with Israel. She speaks like she's a spokesperson for Israel. She came on with Dave Smith, who's a libertarian Jewish comedian who is very anti-Zionist, anti-genocide. I don't know any of his other politics, and I have a feeling I wouldn't like them, but he is good on this one issue. But anyway, so she's on Piers Morgan. I think this was yesterday, and it stirred a lot of controversy. So let's just watch part of this interview.
I was told by the ambassador to UK it was a blood libel for me to suggest that Israel had killed children in this war.
No, I don't believe that was the case.
Yeah,
I think it was to do with targeting children.
No.
And there is a difference.
Right.
Because we are hearing that Israel is targeting children, and that couldn't be further from
Well,
the fact,
last week, 9 out of 10 children in one home where 2 doctors reside were killed in an airstrike.
Well,
Was that what was that?
Remarkable.
Well, what was that?
That has been based only on the basis of hearsay.
You don't believe that story?
Information. I want these stories.
Wait a minute. You don't believe that those children were killed?
I have seen conflicting accounts, and I want that story to be properly investigated before the international media runs with it. I have.
You think those 2 parents, one of whom I think operated on one of the children?
I have a question.
You think that those 2 doctors, the parents, they just made it up?
Why are
that
those
9 of their
children
10 children had been blown to pieces by an Israeli airstrike?
If this is true,
you don't believe it?
Well, why on earth was artificially generated imagery used to promote this story when it first happened?
I've got to say, Natasha, I think what you've just said about that family is despicable.
We've seen time
I'm sorry, it's despicable.
Blood libel?
As somebody, you talk about blood libel, like Dave said, you talk about blood libel, you talk about lies,
All I said
you talk about promoting propaganda, and here you sit here as a lawyer and you say that you do not believe those 9 children were killed.
I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth.
Do you believe it or not?
I said that there were conflicting
accounts. Do you believe it?
And it needs to be investigated.
Do you believe it?
I thought you would be the
parents said 9 of their 10 children were killed. Do you believe them or not? Or did those 2 doctors make it up?
They haven't said that directly as far as I have seen. I have seen second-hand accounts and hearsay. But it's important to ask, why are these civilians still there? Why is it that
Actually, no, it's important to ask whether you believe that family have lost 9 of their 10 children.
I want to know why the international community...
Do you? You don't. And this goes to the point that I would say about Israel generally now, in this war now. Israel says they don't believe anything. Every story that comes out about the deaths of civilians in Gaza,
because there is
someone will pop up representing the Israeli government saying, it's propaganda, it's not true, I've heard it's not right, I've heard it didn't happen.
Okay. And there were a lot of other bits where he asks, like, why don't you let journalists in? He was pretty good on this.
He has changed on this, but I want to caveat that with.
I have lots of caveats. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where you're going with it either, but look, Piers started pushing the bullshit at CNN. That's the main driver of this, right? So CNN, you have a narrative to push regardless of your ratings. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't push pro-Palestine stuff on CNN.
Right.
And he moved over gradually to his own independent media. And now here he is finally meeting the public where they are. And good for him. It's better for the public that he finally is in this position, but he's not on CNN telling this story to people.
Right. Correct. And so I don't know why this is taking such a long time to load. Okay. So for this interview, first it was blood libel. So I can't see anything, but Piers Morgan.
I just want to say that he's sort of Matthew Miller here.
100%. 100%.
Because he knew the lies he was telling the whole time, and now he's getting out of it because it benefits his own ratings.
Yeah. Exactly. The tide has turned and he is late to the party, but he's now going to try to seize the opportunity and possibly, I don't know, maybe he even maybe he just doesn't like this woman specifically, or maybe this story with I mean, it's horrific. The 2 doctors with 10 children and the mother who's a pediatrician
sees 9 kids come in.
9 of her, yeah. And 8 of those
dead.
9 were charred beyond recognition. So, it just might be that and by the way, this is why when journalists want to create sympathy for a group, they tell the story of the people. They give them names. That's why they say their names, right? Now I can't remember the name anymore, but the Biba family or something, there was the family, the mother and her 2 little kids, and one of them had red hair, and everybody lit it up. They knew that family, the mother and the 2 kids, had been killed, I think, from Israeli bombs. They were taken hostage, but they were killed. We knew about that in November or December of 2023. The bodies were released in one of these deals several months ago, and that's when the Empire State Building lit up red for the red hair, and everybody knew their names. And when you bury, at this point, 300,000 people under the rubble, and they've been obliterated and bombed into pieces, and nobody, a lot of the reason that the count of victims of dead Palestinians is so much lower than what we know the actual number of people who have been slaughtered is because there are official registries, and a lot of people can't be identified. And then, of course, the registries that would be doing this work are also facing starvation and have bombs above them every night. So a lot of the work of just identifying who the victims are can't be done. But when you name people and you give them a story, there is a reason that those studies were done. Adam Johnson did a really great review of the way the New York Times talked about Palestinian deaths and Israeli deaths, and whom do you humanize and whom do you not. So possibly this just affected him more deeply. I don't know. Anyway, he is being, people are saying that he's not people, is Zionist. He is an anti-Semite. This is the Israeli minister of diaspora who's saying he is an anti-Semite. Just in case you think that he's, not you, but anybody is under the illusion that he's had some big conversion and understands what's happening. This was him yesterday to a man who has lost at least 21 members of his family.
I'm very sorry about what's happened to your family.
Thank you.
I would ask you maybe one question, which is simply, do you blame Hamas at all for bringing the onslaught onto the people of Gaza with what they did on October the 7th? Do you not think that they knew when they did that exactly how Israel would respond?
I have no idea what Hamas thought of when they did the 7th of October. I just know that Israel killed my family, and I know who killed my family. Israel. It was an F-16 that dropped a bomb on my family home, killing all my family. It was Israel who killed my mother 5 years ago. Do you know how? By not allowing her to receive a treatment for her cancer. They died. She died waiting to travel to a Palestinian hospital in the West Bank to receive a treatment, and she died. I just know that Israel starved the rest of the Palestinian people. I know whose weapons are. I know these planes, who they belong to. I know who these weapons
I understand
they
it,
belong
but I
to.
wonder whether you just think that what Hamas did was so heinous on such a spectacular scale that the leaders of Hamas knew that Israel would have to respond with enormous force. And they did. And a lot of your family were killed in the response that came. I'm not taking a side. I'm not trying to justify it.
Yes.
I'm just saying Hamas would have known exactly what was going to come back when they did what they did. And
I can't even listen to the whole thing. So that was him yesterday. So there's no big conversion. Do you condemn Hamas?
Well,
First of all,
no, go ahead, please.
No, it's okay. I'm just a little shaking. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
But no, I think this is the pivot. So we're getting the pivot to, yes, we can acknowledge that there's this genocide, or we can call war crimes, but we're not going to go to genocide.
Right.
But at the same time, we also have to blame Hamas. So we have to equalize this thing somehow to make the transition to ending whatever this is, or whatever, or settling our debt to the truth, you know, somehow Morgan has to, like, he has to still put that out there to the public. But I mean, the Hamas thing is such a red herring. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, this guy's grandma, his mom died of cancer because she couldn't get treatment, right? So that had nothing to do with Hamas.
Right.
It had to do with Israel not allowing people to get to a fucking hospital.
Right. I mean, imagine if after 9/11, every US citizen who is feeling sad about the nation being attacked asked, do you blame these hedge fund manager, Wall Street, Lehman Brother, most vile people on earth for stealing the resources of everybody in the world, decimating the global south, propping up Israel that's an apartheid state? Like, do you blame? So as you watch your family member fall from the 30th floor, jump out, like, don't you sort of like, probably the US shouldn't be so supportive of Israel. So do you condemn President George W. I mean, like, nobody would even say any of those things. And what Hamas,
No, but
I keep doing his stupid accent. Sorry.
This whole narrative is what they're putting together now, though, because like I said, I always listen to NPR, and NPR is really pushing this interview. There was a poll, an interview about Palestinians supporting Hamas, and apparently it's like, according to their poll, it's down to 30%.
Right.
So they're trying to put the blame on this on Hamas, and once they can blame Hamas for this, and they can blame Hamas, and they can blame Netanyahu, and then they can move on with it. You know, it's like, that's the thing. It's not, none of it's right, but that's the narrative they're pushing now. So if you watch CNN, these people that are going to start pivoting to the truth on this stuff are still going to be like, yeah, but Hamas has to go. Hamas has to go. Hamas has to go.
Which, again, I am so grateful to Norm Finkelstein for right away on the 8th of October saying, no, I do not condemn. And it was really clarifying. I don't condemn Nat Turner. I don't condemn the Warsaw Ghetto, the people who, you know, revolted. I don't condemn people who have been subjugated for decades for fighting for their freedom. And
look, if you lock me in my apartment for fucking a week, I'm going to come out punching. You lock people in a fucking country and kill their kids and starve their fucking families and say you can't grow certain foods and do that for fucking decades and have a whole misinformation campaign funded around the whole world about how these are fucking bad people. I'm going to probably get in sync with some bad groups. Not that Hamas is a bad group, but if you're the one fucking has a fucking gun, at that point, I'm going to join you. And
or
that's
at least
me
be grateful.
For just my little shit.
Yeah.
So I can't condemn somebody in a worse situation than me who would do something I would do now for way fucking less.
Exactly. And also that logic, it's like, why does it start on the 7th? And fine, even if you want to start it on October 7th, then every single day since October 7th has been infinitely worse what Israel has done to Palestinians, not only in Gaza, where they, you know, can lie and say, oh, Hamas was in that, you know, dialysis center, but also in the West Bank, where there's no Hamas. So that logic, which is disgusting from the onset, but like, then apply it. That, like, imagine what is coming for everybody who has been part of this genocide if October 7th justifies the last 20 months. What do the last 20 months justify? And then, of course, that's ignoring the 77 years before October 7th, where we all know that 2023 was already the deadliest year for Palestinians being killed by Israelis since the records had been started. And that was actually in the West Bank. So
so can we get some questions out there about, do you condemn do you condemn starving fucking all these kids? Do you condemn bombing fucking every hospital? Do you condemn getting rid of every educational system? Do you condemn fucking not allowing medical treatment to all these people? Do you condemn that there are fucking UNRWA trucks and UN trucks, 160 trucks worth of aid right outside the fucking border that you won't let in?
Yeah.
That you won't let in? Do you condemn that? Do you condemn fucking all these kids with cancer that haven't had treatment for a year and a half? Not just kids, everyone. Do you condemn any of that stuff? Do you condemn any of it? That's a question they should be asking anyone who says this Hamas shit.
It's disgusting. And so I don't want to give him any props at all. The only thing I will say is I think he has a fairly big audience. So,
No, his pivot is good for the cause, regardless. Yeah. But don't
as you said,
don't look at him as your truth teller. Don't look to him as your truth teller.
Yeah.
He's not. He provided cover just like Matthew Miller did for a fucking year and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So there were 3 different, and we don't have to play all of it, but 3 different clips of journalists who, on Sunday we showed a couple, and now my brain is a fog, but a couple people who were holding Israeli spokespeople to account woke up this morning and saw a few more because, I think everybody people are happy that there is this pivot, but also we should highlight the people who have been much more on top of it for longer.
Who have been starved for weeks, have been shot at while trying to collect aid. You are terrifying the population of Gaza even more. They're too scared now to go to collection points because they know they could be shot at by the IDF.
So that is precisely the Hamas rhetoric that they want you to publish.
It's the facts of what's happened. More than 50 people are dead.
No, that's not the facts, Krishnan. You have got the facts wrong because we've already shown you video of Hamas firing on their own people because this is the last hand. Yes, we have. We released it on Sunday evening.
That is a totally spurious video. It's a spurious video of a different incident
the video
in a different
of Hamas
place.
Firing... No, the video of Hamas firing on their own people trying to get hold of aid is spurious, is it? I think it's
You have no
precisely
evidence that was Hamas or it was at the same incident.
Okay, that's slightly ridiculous. Sometimes, Christian, you actually advocate for Hamas, and I must say it's bizarre.
No, that's offensive, David. You really shouldn't say things like that.
It is offensive to Israel.
It's just attacking the media.
It is offensive to Israel.
It's a talking point, and it just shows you're avoiding the question. The question is...
I'm not avoiding the question. I'm precisely arguing...
This aid operation that you are operating now is ineffective. The UN...
Okay, that was Christian Guru Murthy. This is Kamali Melbourne, same guy, interviewing David Mercer. Is it Mercer or Menser? I can't remember. Menser.
I'm putting the questions to you, and as you well know, in recent weeks we have spoken to Hamas about this. This 27 that were killed, 3 children were killed, 2 women. Were they a threat as well?
Again, every bit of news which comes out of Hamas, of Gaza, is controlled by the terrorist organization. There have been many, I can read you
So we can't be trusted is what you're saying?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that you need to verify. Do your jobs,
We'd
media.
love to, David,
we
we
are
would
not
love,
preventing
David,
Gazans from accessing
as you know, David, and as
aid.
you and I have spoken about before, we would love to verify this, but international journalists are not allowed into Gaza, are they? Why not?
Well, I'll tell you very, very clearly what the reason is for that. Our priority is getting our hostages out. Not Sky's journalists in. That's our priority. That's what we care about. Now, real journalists enter Gaza with the IDF. Hamas journalists, unfortunately, never leave because they work with Hamas. And to be fair to those journalists reporting from Gaza, you won't be alive very long if you ever do produce any sort of output that is against Hamas, because Hamas will kill you. So many so-called journalists in Gaza, and of course we regret any journalists which have been killed, real journalists, but Hamas operatives.
You're distinguishing between real journalists and fake journalists. The point is, David, journalists aren't allowed, from international organisations, are not allowed into Gaza either. And I'm asking you again why you don't allow that. Why don't the Israeli government allow journalists in, you'll know the charge that's put to the Israeli government is that they don't want the world to see what's really happening.
Again, so there's no shortage of output from Gaza. It's been on our front of our screens for 20 months now. But our priority is getting our hostages out.
You're not letting...
We want to get our live hostages out, not sending your journalists in.
This is a really short one. David McCullough, 14 seconds.
Israel prides itself on being the only liberal democracy in the Middle East. What other liberal democracy in the last year and a half has killed 47,000 people? What other liberal democracy has deliberately targeted healthcare infrastructure?
Answer the fucking question.
Yeah. It's all Hamas. Which is why, you know, very early on, Jeremy Corbyn, I think in November of 2023, was on with Piers Morgan, and Piers kept yelling at him, like, do you condemn Hamas? And he wouldn't do it, which was so smart. And again, a difference between Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders will say, of course, Hamas can't still be in power. Of course, what they did was horrific, and it's only Netanyahu's government, you know, like it's, and Jeremy Corbyn did not sink to that level. He didn't take the bait. He would not condemn.
And you don't have any Democrats really out there. That's the whole point, is you don't have any Democrats that will not just pin it on Hamas and Netanyahu. Like those, they're looking for exit routes for their credibility and to still support Israel. But you should be not condemning Hamas. You should be condemning Israel right now. Any power that Hamas has right now, like you can condemn the thing that started this on October 7th, you know, started it, but that ship has sailed. Okay, since that happened, we've got literally 500,000 probably Palestinians dead. And so if you're not asked to condemn something regarding the 500,000 Palestinians probably dead.
Which is also, you know, this whole thing of, I mean, the brutality, the mass rape, the beheading, all of those lies had to be put out so quickly to make everybody think that there is no way ever to deal with Hamas, that they were beyond, that they were just like insane, and from nowhere just decided they need to put babies in ovens and mass rape, because that was the only thing that could justify what Israel was about to do. First of all, it still wouldn't have justified, but also it was a lie. But that they were already like, they used it so fast and came up with their lies so quickly. And people are still hanging on to that, even though, like, yes, of course, like, I don't think that people should be partying at a rave festival a couple miles from a concentration camp. But I can understand still feeling like sad if your loved one was killed or, you know, taken as hostage, right?
But like that whole Hasbara thing, like the way they push the propaganda is they know they're doing such vile criminal acts that they, like, just like a psychological program the CIA puts forward, they know you need an emotional attachment to hang on to an emotional argument in the face of facts.
Yep.
And so they pushed the beheaded baby shit. They pushed all the killing pregnant women, raping, all this stuff.
Remember Frank Luntz had done his whole focus group on that. That actually ranked worse than murder. Rape. Yeah.
That sticks in people's heads and allows them to sort of, well, regardless, you know, maybe there's some cognitive dissonance in the things I've seen on TV for a year and a fucking half. But that has fallen apart by now. And most of the US public and most of the world sees a literal fucking Nazi genocide happening now. And we're both powerless and using our power the best we can. But fuck these guys, and we hate it, and no politician in the US is on the right side of this shit.
Not
you
one.
know, so like
they still talk about beheaded babies, they still talk about rape. There was not a single proven rape. And I'm not saying that like nothing, and yes, as Macarius is saying, there was an Israeli woman who I think they maybe even said that she was raped, but then she denied it. But then she was raped by her trainer. I mean, like, but once she was released and she's back in Israel and she's home safe, Mia Shim, thank you.
But a year later, we're still hearing all these
the rape
debunked, no evidence whatsoever, lies. And you know, guys like Pierce pushed them for a year and a half. I mean, like a month ago, he stopped pushing this stuff. Like, so no medal for him, but you know, it's a step that these idiots that were part of it, like Matthew Miller and him, have to fucking figure out how an exit path for them, because accountability is coming.
I don't know. Damn, I don't know. Do you think it is? I need to see like that shame energy. And maybe it is. I mean, it might just be that there's a convergence of enough things where people realize the boomerang effect, that the dehumanization, the mass slaughter that happens there is coming back here one way or the other. Oh, you're all going to die. You don't get healthcare. Get yourself infected, mass disabled. We don't care if you don't have clean water or air. It's either you that or you're living under a bridge, right?
So I don't think any of that factors into it. I think it's with these guys and their narcissism, it's their own accountability, and it's just money. Because Pierce, he still has to get money.
I meant regular people are going to start putting it all together. Like the people who are okay with the genocide over there, I think those dots are starting to be connected. Like to have so little value on life for people over there, but then you start seeing like why is every cop in these ICE videos, or you know, FBI people or whoever's coming and like kidnap, they've got their faces covered, they're wearing like what uniform is that? Like I do feel like people, just regular people, are starting to connect all the dots.
I don't know. Yeah. All the dots, you know, obviously I know
I don't know. But I mean, it's happening. It's very clear that like the dehumanization, the treating everybody, you know, you're not with us, you're against us, you're the enemy, militarizing our police, thanks Obama, was a real shift in the perception of how the law enforcement, how we were now thinking about law enforcement.
The regular people they're looking, and they're disenfranchised with government at just the highest they've ever been, right?
Yeah.
I just don't know where we go with that unless people get behind things. So that's why you've got this new abundance push against the labor movement, you know, because if all we're going to have is two choices, all this vile Nazism and, you know, obviously anti-worker stuff the Republican Party is pushing, or pretty close to that on the left, and blaming unions now, like unions are the problem, worker movements are the problem.
Because that's our hope, is worker solidarity, right? So smash it.
They're targeting our power with all that.
Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, but we're disenfranchised, but like, how many cycles does the general population think voting out? How long can they convince us voting is going to get us out of this? Like, we can take over the Democratic Party. If we can take over the Democratic Party, point me to the Democratic leaders that somehow are going to change things. And if they have anything good to say, even if they suck to us on the left, they're targeted by the entire mechanism of the Democratic Party and the news media.
Yeah.
So they have no chance of winning if they have anything left that we agree with 5%. So but the general public, that the middle class people who are doing well enough to not be affected, who have health care and think they're in a good place, they have to be affected enough to actually think voting doesn't work enough. Like we need, I don't know. We just have to get past thinking the two party thing is going anywhere. Like it's just not, like,
yeah.
And that's the problem with the Bernie thing and the Bernie and the AOC thing. It's like, yeah, you're getting people upset at the problem, but you're not convincing them that we have to do something else. And that's delaying this solution, which is not going to be nonviolent and not going to be, I mean, if anyone can make it nonviolent, it's Bernie. He could do it. He has the power to do it, and he's not using it.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. I like, does this bring you hope?
I already see a major problem with this setup. It allows for a lot of wiggle room between these railings, and that could easily cause a derailment, which is the last thing that you want with a guillotine blade. So for safety reasons, I'm gonna have to go with the backup plan.
Maybe this is all a terrible idea, socially unacceptable nonsense, just a frivolous little project irrelevant to the hearts and minds of anyone. But I don't believe that. Why am I building this? Because it needs to be built. Better to have one and not need it than need one and not have one. Because there's an unspoken understanding that everyone is beginning to feel in their core. A growing awakening to the reality of our circumstance. Every day the divide grows wider, and we've all fallen into enslavement under fraudulent authorities. Those who claim to serve our best interest, who continuously pulls the rug from beneath our feet the second we feel secure enough to stand up.
Making lemonade.
I mean, I have the tools in the wood right here. Like I could, can you imagine walking to my little small socialist apartment and then I have a fucking candy? It's probably,
I don't know. I don't know if we brought enough. We brought
months.
the hope. I thought he was just making lemonade. I didn't know what was happening.
That's
life hands you lemons, make lemonade.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, I don't have a lot of hope. I am definitely not a Pollyanna kind of person. Watching communities come together, even knowing that these people who are masked up, who do not have, any, what's it called, identification or numbers or badges, who are armed, and communities are coming out. Yeah, voting is not ever what changes anything. But I feel like we're starting to get to a critical mass because it is just so horrifying to see what is happening. But I mean, I don't want that either. Like that sucks. I don't want violence in the streets. That's not fun for anybody.
I'm trying to watch my words a little bit, but I feel like what we're seeing right now is uncontrollable anger. So they've been able to put us back in the box and bottle us up. And if there's hope, it's that, look, all that anger and all that they've done to hold us down can spark something that we don't know that people latch onto, because the situation is so dire that it's affecting so many people that they can't really contain it. So the sooner we have a moment or something where the whole public gets behind it, and just like the unions and strikes for wages have worked, like maybe it's just one small issue, but we win that issue and they see, look, we all fucking said we're fucking sick of this. We all got behind this one thing. Maybe there's something there. Like, I think that's how it happens. But this, again, to me, this is why I get upset at the people who are like, we need the perfect conditions ready before we have a general strike.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we need to get people prepared for a general strike in a specific targeted thing in an area, make it work. All the money will flow in because it's just one area. It's not like the whole nation of people saying we have to not work, but we have the one targeted thing that we do that works. And then the public sees success and they will fund the next thing.
Right.
And a couple Luigi's in there.
Yeah.
Changes the
Lemonade.
game. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So in the midst of all of this, somebody was pointing out that I'm not going to say something negative about anybody. I'm just only going to say positive stuff. The Freedom Flotilla is headed to Gaza. They are I think there are 12 of them. Greta Thunberg is one of them. She is, what is she, 22?
22.
Yeah. So she is using her platform, which started, she's just one person. It started with climate, and she would just sit outside by herself with a placard every day, trying to draw attention to climate catastrophe. And it's so interesting, like people on the right, especially, who like to pretend that climate, that we don't have a climate issue, are making fun of her for dropping climate and moving on to the next thing, as though genocide and war and the military aren't inextricably linked to our climate disaster. But anyway, she is on this flotilla. 3 months ago, when they tried to do a flotilla, it was bombed by Israel. This one, they've already had drones over their heads as they are going there to try to bring attention. She's using her fame to try to bring attention to the fact that Israel is blockading any aid and food into Gaza unless it's attached to U.S. mercenaries and IDF soldiers and their own ISIS gangs that they support there. So, we are all, and who was it just a couple of days ago, Lindsey Graham saying, I hope she can swim, like these sort of very not even blanketed insinuations of threat towards her and the rest of them. And I don't think we can put it past Israel that they might want to make an example. Like, what can we get away with? So I don't think
I've thought about that. I agree. I don't think it's beyond possibility that they actually bomb her in the flotilla. I mean, they're saying, there's the rhetoric of saying that they will bomb it. And they're putting that out there by their own national fucking leaders saying,
we have to protect our shores, and they're coming towards our shores. They're not coming with weapons. And also, by the way, the Gaza shores aren't yours. You're occupying somebody else's land. You don't need to protect that from what? From food? They don't have weapons on their flotilla. But we will see, because, there was an Palestinian American 14-year-old boy who was just killed by Israel last week. Nobody's even talking about it. An American citizen. They killed the Turkish American, or was she Turkish American, Palestinian American, who went to the West Bank a few months ago and killed her. Nothing, nothing matters. So yeah, I mean, I'm not at all resting easy, but I am so grateful.
I'm not resting easy.
People.
Yeah. I don't think they would take that step, to be honest. I think it would push things too far, and there are probably enough people that recognize this would be a massive mistake. But with Trump's coordination that they've had so far, and our politicians' coordination, it could be okay, because it would enforce a police state and the anti-activist movement, the anti-Semitic, bullshit labeling. So it's not a 0%. I would have said, in a logical state a few years ago, I'd say, it's like a 2% chance. Now I'm like, it's a it's not going to happen, but it's 25%, you know, like, which is fucking crazy. That's
And I might even up those odds or whatever. I'm always bad about that, but like I'm at 50-50 right now, what they can get away with. And just say, oh, she's a Hamas supporter. She's a terrorist. Do you condemn Hamas? No, she supported Hamas, just like all the journalists and all the doctors and all the babies.
If you look at Trump's administration, they want to send these messages. So, you know, they know the cruelty is part of it's intended. So it's possible now.
So on that happy note,
bravery.
to bravery, cheers to all of you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Cheers to them. I hope they get there safely, and keep punching up. We'll see you on Sunday.
Cheers.
We cannot just sit around and do nothing and watch this live stream genocide unfold in front of our very eyes. So we are doing this because we are human beings who care about justice. When our complicit governments fail to step up, it falls on us, unfortunately, to do so.
A group of 12 activists are carrying the aid for Gaza, including the Swedish activist Greta Thunberg. Since setting sail, passengers on the flotilla have faced many threats, including from U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who wrote on X, quote, "Hope Greta and her friends can swim." Greta is speaking to us aboard the Gaza Freedom Flotilla's vessel Madeleine, which is on this voyage from Sicily to Gaza, again carrying life-saving aid in an attempt to break Israel's siege of the Gaza Strip. Greta, it's really something to see you on that ship right now. Can you tell us why you're taking this journey, extremely dangerous, and how you're planning to challenge the Israeli blockade?
As you said, we are doing this mission following 1 month after our last attempt. Both Conscience was bombed and disabled. That's why we are trying again, because we cannot afford to give up. There is simply too much at stake. And in times of injustice, as we are seeing now, we have to do everything we can to demand an end to these atrocities and war crimes committed by Israel. I happen to have a platform for some reason. It is my moral obligation to use that platform. And if my presence on this boat can make a difference, if that can show in any way that the world has not forgotten about Palestine, to try once again to attempt to break the siege and open up the humanitarian corridor and deliver the extremely needed humanitarian aid, then that is a risk I'm willing to take. It's something that we just simply have to do. For me, there's no way of distinguishing the two. We cannot have climate justice without social justice. I'm a climate activist because I care about human and planetary well-being, and those are extremely interlinked. For example, when we see the genocide in Gaza, of course, there are some very obvious links that ecocide, environmental destruction, is a very common method used in war and to oppress people. But also, it should be much simpler than that. No matter what the cause of the suffering is, whether that is CO2, whether that is bombs, whether that is state repression or other forms of violence, we have to stand up against that source of suffering. If we pretend to care about the environment, if we pretend to care about the climate and our children's future without seeing and acknowledging and fighting against the suffering of all marginalized people today, then that is an extremely racist approach to justice.